Alright, happy July 4th everybody. Getting ready to post my video today about my first century ride on my bike. If you guys don't know, a century ride is 100 miles. I decided a little while ago that I wanted to challenge myself in July to do some really physical challenges that were longer, some more real endurance things, things I hadn't done before. To kind of give you a rundown of my journey on my bike. I really started biking a couple of years ago. I really do like it. I enjoy it a lot. I try to get out almost every day. I really ramped up my training. So in May, I decided I was doing like 8 to 10 mile rides pretty regularly. I would ride to the gym and round trip. That was about 8 or 9 miles, and I enjoyed it. And I started deciding, hey, what am I going to do now to step my game up and challenge myself differently and maybe push myself a little further. So, in May, got my first 16-mile ride in. I loved it. I did it again the next day. 2 weeks later, I did a 30-mile ride, and then the first weekend of June, I went out and did a 50-mile ride. It took me about 4 hours, and I was tired. I was exhausted after I did, but I really liked the challenge of challenging myself to go further, and 4 hours on the bike seemed like it was pretty intense. So for today, I decided to get on July 4th, got up super early. I'll share with you some of the photos on there and some video around, my meal prep for last night, because you really do got to treat it like almost like a marathon run. It's a long distance event. I was on the bike for 7.5 hours today without a break. Did get it done, and I'll share kind of how that went. For me, it was definitely a lot of fun, but it was up and down, right? I had the first part of the ride was significantly easier than the second part, and I'll talk about what I did right, and then maybe what I would do differently if I was to do it again. But last month in June, so in May I did about 250 miles, in June I did 450, and I averaged 15 miles a day. I did no less. Every single day I did at least 10 miles. It didn't rain. We got 1 day of rain in June, so I wasn't able to get out there and train. But the big key when you're going to do one of these endurance events is you got to train yourself and challenge yourself. You got to get in front of it. You can't just go out and do it blind. 7.5 hours on the bike. And I was completely surprised when I get off. Like, I got off the bike probably 3 hours ago. I actually feel really good. I had a couple of bottles of Gatorade. I had some lunch. I laid down for about an hour, and I actually feel great. I'm getting ready to barbecue for some family members coming over, so I'm super excited about that. But I would just tell you, I surprisingly feel a lot better than I thought I would. And as I thought about how do I share in this video what's important, I'm going to tell you what I would do, what I thought worked well for me, and what I would do differently if I were to do this 100 miles again, as someone who's maybe thinking about, trying to get into a longer term exercise like doing a 100-mile bike ride. So the first thing I would tell you that went well for me had nothing to do with me. Was the weather. It was perfect weather for a bike ride. 65 to 70 degrees, overcast for most of the ride. Had a little bit of sun for the last 2 hours, but for the first 7 hours it was great. Things that I did that I think really worked well. I started early, so I got out. The sun came up at 5:15. I got on the road at 4:45, right before sunup. Still bright enough that people can see me. Obviously you want to be safe. I wear my yellow jersey, my blue helmet. Again, I want to be as visible as possible when I'm out on the bike. The other thing I think I did well is I really prepared last night. I had a great meal that was designed for do long-term exercise, right? I had, a large baked sweet potato. I had some salad with some feta cheese, some baked chicken breasts, a pretty fair amount of baked chicken. So I had enough food where I had good fuel. I also fueled well this morning. I got up, I had an English muffin with some peanut butter on it, made sure I was good to go. I also drank 2 bottles of water before I went to bed and 1 bottle of water as soon as I wake up. So I hydrated like crazy. So I thought I did a good job on that, and my fuel was good. I also brought stuff with me, enough food and enough water to get me through the ride. I thought maybe after 75 miles, I'd have to stop. I didn't, which was the great part of the ride. I felt really good about that. I was able to get out there and continue to ride and not have to stop. The century ride, when you hear about it, when people talk about it in cycling, it's 100 miles in a day. For me, I wanted to challenge myself to see if I could do 100 miles actually without stopping and getting off the bike. And I was able to do that. So that was pretty exciting, and a pretty good goal that I'm proud of myself to get after. Again, when I think back, just 5 months ago at 290 pounds, again, nothing I could have imagined doing. And even 2 months ago, I was scared to try to tackle a 20. And now, I've done multiple 20s, a 50, 100. I feel really good about what I did. What would I do differently? So there's a couple of things potentially I would do differently. One is I would probably get some gloves for my hands. I've never worn gloves before, but my hands actually were pretty sore at the end. I think I got some blisters on the inside part of my hands. So I would probably get some gloves to do that, to put myself in a better position to not have that pain when I was riding. as I think about, I probably would have brought a little bit more water. I had a couple of bottles with me, and I had drunk a lot of water before I started. But I would say that probably another bottle of water would have been a good move for me. I also, I would say I didn't underestimate, but I think, I would probably think differently around how my ride went. I went out with the expectation that I would finish in 8 hours, which was 12.5 miles an hour. I ended up finishing at about 7.5, about 13.4 miles an hour. I set a pretty good pace, and I felt like I wasn't pushing myself too far in the beginning of the ride. But honestly, as I got towards the end, the last, the ride, as they say in the game doesn't start till the fourth quarter. This ride didn't start till the fourth quarter. After I got beyond 75 miles, the first 75 miles were incredibly, I don't want to say easy, but not as challenging as I thought they would be. I felt great. I was in a good position to, to continue to finish. I wasn't sore. I didn't have a lot of pain. The last 25 miles were tougher, and specifically the last 15, I would say, were probably the toughest part. I would also say if you're going to go out and do your first century ride, my suggestion would be to find a route that you're familiar with. So what I did is I was trying to decide my route, as I was trying to decide what I'd go out and do, 50 miles out and 50 miles back. But to do that, I'm going to travel on a lot of roads I don't know. There was an option for me to do two other routes that I could do. One was a 25-mile loop and one was a 12-mile loop. Obviously, the 25-mile loop would have only taken me 4 laps to do. The 12-mile loop took me 8 laps, plus I had to add a couple of side streets in at the end to kind of get that. It's over 12. It's about 12.3. So I got done with my final lap of 8 laps on that 12-mile route, and I still needed to find about 2 more miles. So I went and did another little jaunt around the neighborhood where I knew where I could go, and I ended up finishing at 100.5 miles. So got the ride into what I wanted to do, and it felt really good when I did it. The other thing I would tell you is this is like a marathon level event for riding. You're going to be on the bike for a long time. I was on for 7.5 hours today. Make sure that you're dressed appropriately. We talked about that a little bit earlier before, but the reason we wear the jerseys when we ride, and I was an anti-jersey guy. I just started wearing them maybe in the last month or so. Probably not even that long, last 3 weeks. The jerseys do 2 things. One is they wick away sweat, so you feel better during the ride. The second big one that I like is they have pockets in the back, so I could then carry my stuff with me without having to have a backpack. When I did the 50-mile ride, I didn't have a jersey, and I was just wearing kind of a dry fit shirt. And I felt terrible, about 40 miles in, because I was wearing a backpack, and the pain would get into my shoulders, and it wasn't comfortable. In this ride, I had none of that. Maybe the last 5 miles, I wasn't super comfortable. But again, when you're on a bike, you're doing anything for 7.5 hours, it's exercise. It's gonna do that to you. Here's the cool part for me. So I talked about my weight loss last week. This was a good week for me. After my ride, if you take a look at what we had done, we had got down to about 210 pounds. So I'm about 25 pounds away from where I absolutely want to be. I want to get down to 185. I feel awesome. I'm in a great position to drive this through the next, through the end of this month. I fully expect by the end of July that I'll be under 200 pounds for the first time since I was in my early 20s. So I'm super excited about that. I'd also tell you that, according to Fitbit, and I know there's a lot of stuff out there. I don't know how accurate it is, but according to Fitbit, I burned about 5,600 calories, right? So, tonight I'm going to allow myself to enjoy some 4th of July barbecue. And part of this whole fitness journey is also finding ways to work out, to take care of yourself, so you can enjoy some of those things that you want to do. So I would just say, find ways to exercise, keep the activity level high, which will let you then go out and enjoy what you love to do. Like, we're going to have some chicken wings tonight. We're going to have some steaks. Again, stay relatively healthy. I'll have a salad. I'll also have some corn on the cob. So we'll have some calories from the meat, but nothing over the top. But just, again, I'm not even thinking about calories tonight. Again, with burning 5,600 calories, you've created a deficit that's going to allow yourself to have a great meal and enjoy it. So I would just say, thank you guys for watching. We'll get some other stuff here in the video going on. Look forward to some stuff coming up. We may do another extreme challenge from a distance perspective next week. I'm kind of working on that to see if I can do it logistically, if it's going to make sense. And we will do another food video this week, which should be pretty good. Expect that to come out midweek. So have a great and safe 4th of July. We'll talk to everybody soon. All right, good morning. It is just before 5 o'clock. We are starting out on our 100-mile ride. Hoping, if all goes well, that we will be pulling back in the house somewhere around 1 o'clock. Should get this done in around 8 hours. It's going to be a good day. It's nice and cool. Again, this time of the morning on the 4th of July, there's no traffic, so the road is mine, which is great.
get to go out and just ride for a bit. Expect to see a little more traffic as we go along, obviously during the day, but I'll try to catch a nice video of the sunrise. I'll talk to everybody as we go along. Coming up to our first little hill here, this is the biggest challenge when you're doing a distance ride, is to not get too overexcited, right? I've already done a mile, it's easy, right? It's nobody on the road, we're going pretty fast. You know, we have these kind of little rolling hills that we're gonna run into a few times here today. Early in the ride, you don't want to exert a ton of energy. The key to doing a long distance ride is to take it easy. I love to play poker. I'm gonna use a poker analogy. It's like getting that poker tournament. In that first little bit of time, you don't want to play super aggressive and, you know, get too excited. The guys that are great at poker are the guys that understand when to play and when to fold. And that's kind of the same thing when you're doing a long distance bike ride like this. At the very beginning of the ride, you're gonna have to go and take it slow. It's okay to, you know, kind of not have a super fast pace here, because my key is not to burn up all my energy in my first 25 miles. So I'll share some more with you later on. The cool thing is, in that back half of the ride, you should still feel pretty refreshed, still have some fuel from your dinner last night, from your breakfast this morning, to be able to go, it'll be a little aggressive more in the back half of the ride. So the key for me right now is just to kind of stay bored and take it easy for the next, let's call it 2 to 3 hours, to kind of conserve my energy. Now the good news is, at 3 hours, I should be around 40 miles into my ride. And I should still feel great there, because it'll be a very smart and very conservative how we do it. We're coming to the town square here probably 3 or 4 times today. We're trying to do a 25-mile loop. As you can see it again at 5 o'clock in the morning on this Saturday, July 4th. There's nobody out here. This is awesome. I haven't had any lights yet. Super easy. Love getting out early because, again, kind of the road's mine. You're not going to worry about a lot of other drivers. Great to start the day for a long ride like this, because I'm not having to focus on a ton of the other stuff that you do on a long, you know, long road bike ride, where, you know, worrying about other folks, worrying about traffic. So the first, you know, 25 miles should be relatively easy. We're not going to see a lot out here. We kind of have the road to ourselves. It should be a lot of fun, and I'll show you this probably around 12:30 and see how different it looks then. Right, so now we're up to towards the end part of our second lap. So we're getting into close to 25 miles now. I figured I'd share this part with you. This is going to be the fastest part of our ride here. There's a pretty steep downhill coming up. I wish the signs still worked up here. Probably my favorite, when I started biking a lot here, my favorite thing was when I hit this sign, they would tell me I was going too fast, at 35 miles an hour. And right now we're probably going somewhere around 35 to 38 miles an hour. That's average over here. You can see you get some good speed. No traffic still, which is awesome. It's still only like 6:30 in the morning. Pretty good pace so far, just over 13 miles an hour for the first couple of laps. But we get in here, we get some good corners, we get some good speed, not much tree there, not a lot of traffic. Talk to you guys here there, it's 25 miles or so, feeling really good so far. Really good pace, fuel feels good, a lot of energy still, so I'll let you guys know after 2 more laps how we're doing. Right, so we're 30 miles in. This road is really unremarkable, except for one weird thing that I never can figure out when I'm riding it, and that is it's slight uphill, but it always feels like a decline. For whatever reason, I always carry good pace through here. It never kind of stresses me out, even though we're going slightly uphill. So interesting, as you ride, you find these strange things with these roads and different paths that you can kind of attack differently. You know, if I started to look at this, I would think it was more of a challenge, but again, slight up, slight incline, and it never really feels that challenging, so it's kind of cool. It's good to know your roads. You know, I think on this route today, I'm very familiar with the roads I'm on, so it's made this a little bit easier for me so far. Like I said, 30 miles in, feeling good. Still have 70 to go, but we're at a good pace, so we're hoping to get this done in sub 8 hours. My least favorite hill on the ride here. Not that it's super challenging, it's just long, and it's you know, a decent grade. It's just one of these hills. This is the 5th time I've done it now as I'm doing these loops of 12.5 miles. Just starting to take its toll on my legs here. The good news is once I get past this, the rest of the back half of this ride is pretty easy, so shouldn't be too bad. Right, So we are now 5.5 hours into our ride, 75 miles, 3/4 of the way there. I feel surprisingly good. Sorry for the sniffles. I know it's been a little chilly out here today, so if I've been sniffling on the video, I apologize. But I feel great. 2 more laps to go. We set up this course that was 12.5 miles. We're just coming to the end of lap 6. So we have laps 7 and 8 to go. I'll get back with you when there's 1 or 2 miles left. We'll kind of ride in the last mile together, and then I'll let you know how I feel when I get off the bike. But surprisingly good, still feeling strong. Been on the bike straight for 5.5 hours, so feeling good. It's pretty cool as we've stayed pretty consistent throughout the day. I talked about at the start of the ride, not going out and blowing myself up in the beginning and getting too fast. And just looking at my last lap, I was about a minute off my pace that I've been at for the day. So pretty good. You know, in the mid-70s, you've got 75 miles in. Been on the bike for over 5 hours. Maintain a pretty even pace is pretty good. That's what I wanted to do. I've been aided like crazy by the weather. You know, cool, overcast. It's definitely made this ride a lot easier. Starting to get a little sunny now. We've got 2 laps left, so we'll see how that goes. I feel like I'll probably lose a little bit of pace in the last 2 laps, but not a ton. So the goal is to stay within 2 to 3 minutes per lap. If that's the case, we'll finish right around 7 hours and 15 minutes, which is a great pace. I was trying to come in at 8 hours, so feeling really good about where we are now. Like I said, we've got a little less than 25 miles left. Looking forward to the end of the ride, still feeling really strong. So catch you guys in about 23 miles. So heading into the last lap. We've got about 13 miles left, maybe 13 and a half. This course is a little shorter than 12 and a half, so we have to make up an extra mile at the end somewhere. Pretty tired, still feel good though. Like my energy's still good. My legs are just very tired. I've been on the bike for over 6 hours straight now without a break, so just a little tired there. But you know, probably lost about 3 minutes off my pace in that last 12 miles. This last one's probably going to take a little longer too. Definitely starting to hurt a little bit. My hands, my legs are tired. Surprisingly, my butt doesn't hurt, which I thought it would. Usually in a ride like this it would, and again, like I said, I've been on the bike straight for 6+ hours. So that's a real positive. The hills are tough. The good news is I front loaded the hills on these laps that I'm doing, so the back half is much easier to bring it home. So see everybody here in, I don't know, in the next hour or so, and we will be done with our first century ride.
So you can see at the end of the video there is no last video footage of the end of the ride. Unfortunately, my GoPro battery died. I didn't have it on very often, but I thought it would last a little longer than it did. It definitely did not last as long as I thought it would, so I do apologize. There is no video at the end there for those last couple of miles, which is probably a pretty good thing. I was pretty fried at the end. I had that last 5 miles was really tough, and I didn't have anything in the tank, so I don't know if I would have been very inspirational in those last few videos, those last few miles, but I do apologize. You know, I'm still learning this, and we will get better as we go along. But I will say that, you know, I told you there'd be a video at the end. Unfortunately, there wasn't. Just ran out of space or ran out of battery life, and didn't have one in there. So sorry about it. Working on it for next time. We'll continue to make it better.